Welcome into the Paul Kuharsky podcast. I'm Paul Kuharsky of paulkuharsky.com. Say my name 3 times. Good luck ensues. I'm part of the 440 Sports Network. I'm pleased to see you all. I know we had some questions file in early because I didn't declare a time for this fine event early in the day. I'm going to talk about Cam Ward's confidence, the waiver wire. Are the Titans stuck? Many questions on your mind. A couple guys who flat out stunk in the joint practices in Atlanta. I will not be at the game tomorrow. A rare miss for me, but preseason games only have so much value. And I had other things to deal with, and I want to spend 2 days in one of my least favorite cities. So I will be with them when they get back. Cynthia, Sergey, if you're still here, appreciate it. Good to see you. Focus, Kim, Lee, and a double play away. Great to see everybody. Let's start with Cam Ward's confidence. He said in Flowery Branch, Georgia, the scenic site of the practice facility for the Atlanta Falcons, that the Titans have a top 5 receiving core and probably, he thinks, a top 10 offense. He wasn't around last year, all right? So he doesn't have a lot of points of reference based on how bad they were last year. I don't know if he knows exactly where they're coming from, which was nowhere close to that. He also called Treylon Burks a top 5 receiver. If Treylon Burks was a top 5 receiver and they lost a top 5 receiver, and they're still a top 5 receiving group, well, I really wonder what they were as a receiving group before they lost a top 5 receiver. So he would call Calvin Ridley the best receiver in the league and Treylon Burks a top 5 receiver. So if you're losing that kind of quality and still a top 5 receiving group, he's got some big time expectations, aspirations. Look, there's some youthful naivete involved in that. There is a young quarterback pumping up his guys, showing them incredible respect. And, he's doing it. Nobody else is doing it. So I think that's good. I wrote, and I hope you read or will read, that the undercurrent around this team is not loaded with farcical expectations of what they are and what the expectations can be. Nobody's saying that they checked every single box from the starters to the depth, the way Rand Carthon said that last year. People are saying different things behind the scenes. They're questioning the depth. They're asking for patience. They're understanding that they need time, development, that there are still a lot of holes, and those sorts of things. So, I mean, it's not creating any great strain or pain on the team that enthusiastic young quarterback is really excited about his guys. No, but I mean, it does sound silly. Like I've been thinking about the way defenses will approach the Titans. And if you're a defense approaching the Titans that we've seen to this point, even in the first preseason game, but certainly through practices, what would you do? Well, if you go by the way you should operate defensively, you take away the most dangerous threat and take your chance with everybody else. So if you're defense, you put the best cornerback on Calvin Ridley, or you double him and try to make sure he doesn't hurt you. And once you've minimized the damage that Calvin Ridley can do to you, where do the Titans turn? Pregnant pause. Super pregnant Pause. Feel free to answer in the comments here if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. Where do the Titans turn? Who's their second most dangerous guy? Nobody's going to be scared of Van Jefferson. Nobody's going to be scared of Tyler Lockett. Maybe down the road, one of the rookies pans out into something, Alec Ioman or Chim DK. But even them getting to a point where somebody is scared of them seems highly unlikely. And then you're down to Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Titans can have an effective run game, but a super threatening run game, I doubt it. Some of you are saying Gunnar Helm. I mean, I think Gunnar Helm can be threatening at times. Is Gunnar Helm going to catch 6 passes for 100-something yards? Very unlikely. So, I mean, I think it's not hard to solve the Titans offense as it stands right now. Chigakonko, I think, is losing faith. He can make some plays too, but a consistent week-to-week threat, no. Jared Jewell is kind of picking up what I'm putting down. The Titans have no option outside Ridley. Either a rookie has to boom, or maybe Helm, who's also a rookie, but at the tight end spot, still not enough firepower, which I think is exactly right. So top 5 receiving group, not even on potential, not even on potential. The Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens have been winning for years with average wide receivers. Well, I wouldn't say the Chiefs have been winning for years with average wide receivers. The Chiefs, once upon a time, had Tyreek Hill, who's far from an average wide receiver. So they've been winning for a couple of years with average wide receivers. The Bills had a pretty good wide receiver that they gave up on, but when he was a top wide receiver, he was helping them win, wasn't he? Diggs? Ravens are not a wide receiver team, clearly, and they make it work with their quarterback. I'll give you that. Jared says Titans neglected backup quarterback and running back and tight end. Well, they spent a pick on the tight end who looks pretty good. They weren't due to go get another running back. I mean, you can't add running back to the list of needs for a team that needed a shit ton of stuff. And they had Pollard, who's not a bad running back, and Spears, who, did not have a good season and is too dinged up and apparently had some off the field issues last year. But you can't. I mean, what did they draft that you didn't want them to draft in order to go get 2 positions that were accounted for in what they did? And then you said a backup quarterback. I mean, they could have gone out and spent more on a backup quarterback, but and I'm not satisfied with what they have at backup quarterback. But I think people who think certain guys are worth $8 million for the subtle difference between them and crap. I mean, I can understand the Titans' approach. My issue with the backup quarterback situation is this. If you're going with Brandon Allen, who is not very good, and I think this is at least a potential plan for the Titans, is if Cam gets hurt and we can't find better than Brandon Allen, we'll go with Brandon Allen. Or if Cam's terrible and we need to sit him for a while, we'll go with Brandon Allen and we'll take the beating and we'll take the losses and we'll take the draft pick. Problem with that is Cam's not the only guy you're trying to develop on offense. You're trying to develop Helm and Io Manor and DK and Oliver and the offensive line. And you stall all of that development if you go from Cam Ward to absolute trash. Now, I don't know who's going to become available, but but you can do better. Adam wants to know, will we see Mullings get any snaps behind the ones this week? I wouldn't think so. No, I take that back. I mean, with Spears out, it's possible. I think it'd probably just be Pollard and Chestnut, though. So Cool Daddy says we need to trade for good wide receiver and defensive end, but definitely wide receiver. They're not trading for anybody. They're not giving up draft capital. They're waiting to use draft capital. Where is Marcus Mariota? I believe he's the backup in Washington, but he's certainly not going to be the backup here. Jared says, a project, Femi, in the second, I wouldn't have done. I don't subscribe to linemen high up in the first, but that's just me. Talking defensive lineman because he's an outside linebacker. So let's call him what he is. It makes it a little easier for us to be clear in our discussion, especially if you don't get the first pick at any lineman position. Get the top dog in another draft. Well, the draft out of need and not best available. What's the balance between being patient with a young head coach and quarterback and not being patient with either one? There's a lot there. Let's talk about Femi. I mean, you're saying don't draft an outside linebacker in the second round because you didn't get the chance at the best outside linebacker, and then they'd have no one at outside linebacker. So they needed to take an outside linebacker. Now you could argue with trading down in the second, and you can because they could have got the Boston College kid who's more pro ready. But I mean, you can't say don't take an outside linebacker until you can take one in the first. I mean, how many years do you wait for that? You had to take a quarterback in the first this year by their thinking with who was available and what they had and how they felt about Ward. Next year, I would think they've taken a pass rusher in the first round. But what if it stacks up that a wide receiver is the very best possibility for them? So by your thinking, they would take the wide receiver, and then you can't take an outside linebacker in the second round because they didn't have a chance at the very best pass rusher. It doesn't make any sense. When the offseason started, it was Levis and then Allen. Ed Henry reminds us now it's really an issue with Levis's surgery. Yes, but they knew that there was an outside possibility of Levis having surgery or of things not working out with Levis in some way, shape, or form, even though they were in control of it. And when you're getting a third, you have to think he could become your second. Have to think it's a possibility. Mark says last year's offensive line was completely dysfunctional and the wide receivers were worse than this year. The strategy to shut down Ridley was probably in place last year, but Ridley still was 1,000-yard producer. 1,000 yards is, a nice mark. It's also not a massive amount of yardage. And Calvin Ridley did not have a great season last year. He was virtually invisible for the first 5 or 6 games. So the remainder of his season was quite good, actually. I will say that. But if you're looking for a guy that had a complete season, it wasn't Calvin Ridley. He and Levis were terrible together in the first 5 or 6 games. And Nick Westbrook-Akine in 31 pass receptions, I could be wrong on that number, scored 9 touchdowns. So there was some other significant production from the wide receiver group. Not that NWI was a great receiver, but he gave them some ridiculous production for what they did. Jared, now you're correcting what you said, and I can't remember what you said in the first one. So a disconnected question is not going to serve this conversation well. Rusty. Since you've been covering the Titans, is Cam the best a rookie quarterback has looked in camp? I don't remember specifically how everybody looked in camp, but if he's the best a rookie quarterback has looked in camp, then everybody else looked pretty shitty because he's not looked that good. He's not looked that good. I mean, he's had some good days and he's had some bad days, but he's characterized the offense as mid twice, and the offense is very mid at best. I mean, I think this team is kind of stalled is the word I used in the headline. Stuck may be a better word. Not just the offense, the team just feels like it's kind of stuck in the mud or treading water. I don't know which way is the right way to put it. It just there's something missing. They're waiting on something. It's a team that needs to be greater than the sum of its parts, and I can assure you that right now it is not. So I'd encourage you to read this link, which I'm trying to send, but no, there it's sent. Which I wrote yesterday, which I think is really good. Adam says the first pick next year should be best player available. I disagree with that entirely. I mean, if unless Cam flames out in an Isaiah Wilson type of fashion this year, the first pick next year cannot be a quarterback. They can't have drafted Malik Willis and Will Levis and Cam Ward and a first-round quarterback next year. That's just not a distribution of resources that has any chance for this to be a successful football team and a successfully built football team. So I disagree with that entirely. It also can't be a right tackle. It also can't be, an inside linebacker, because you can't draft an inside linebacker as high as the Titans will be drafting. So Eric says any position groups better than last year. I mean, certainly the offensive line, the starting offensive line is better than last year, will be better than last year. Don't know for sure about Moore, but I think Skoronski's a better player. I think Zeitler is an upgrade. And I think Latham, thinned down and on the right side, will be a better player. So I have little doubts about that. And I do think there's progress going on there. Mr. Gupton, who I had the pleasure of meeting at a Titans practice recently. Congrats on teaching at Belmont. Reach out if I have any questions. I will do well, he said in a different one. So I shared today on Twitter that I am going to be teaching 2 classes as an adjunct at Belmont this semester, a couple nights a week. Excited for that. Eager to see what the teaching world is like, something I've been curious about for some time. So it will be interesting. I hope the time management is not as difficult as it might be. And I will keep you posted. I appreciate the nice reaction I've gotten from so many people on the Twitter machine, which is very somewhat surprising, I will say. Joining a tad late, Marty says this team will be slightly less dog shit than last year, right? I think it will be slightly less dog shit than last year, but I'm starting to think that it will be slightly less dog shit than last year, primarily because it has to regress to the mean somewhat. And the ways it found to lose games last year, some of them were incredibly unique. And the league is built for teams to gravitate towards the 7, 8, 9 win department. And I think things will pull them in that direction. But I'm not sure how much better they are right now. I don't feel that they're that much better right now. Fatty Matty says, after Brinker mouthed off about AI, inferring that they had a superior method for talent evaluation, how in the hell did he keep his job? You think he's going to get fired for talking about him having analytics models that are good? Amy likes him in part because he talks about having analytics models that are good. Now we're going to see if his analytics models are any good. And I think they probably really start with this draft and maybe with this free agency class. I do not have a doctorate. I have a master's. Since you're so thin, Matt asks, at key positions, should they shut down Cam, Ridley, etc. for the preseason? I mean, I understand being restrained with guys, but you can't shut down Cam for the preseason entirely. I mean, you want him to go into the season with absolutely nothing? Got to have something. I understand limiting him, but I mean, this isn't a team that can have its starters not play at all. They would go out and they may go out and get embarrassed by Denver and Los Angeles in the first 2 weeks anyway. But how embarrassed do you want them to be? Yeah, people want to ask this question a lot. How much? Well, let's stick with this first. Adam says, do I agree with only 2 series for Cam? Look, I would love for Cam to play 3 quarters. But I can imagine any conversation where the decision makers are sitting around the table and everybody making the very best case for Cam to play a lot, and somebody constantly interjecting, but if he gets hurt, we're fucked. But if he gets hurt, there's everything's going to be second guessed. And I can't argue with that. If he plays the 3rd series and on the 3rd series somebody rolls his ankle, you're killed for him playing the 3rd series. If he plays after halftime and at that point he gets somebody's low at his knee, some dumb second stringer on the other team, or by accident, and he tears his ACL, your season and people's careers are ruined. So I just don't know how the people making the case for him to play more can ever beat the people making the case that the risk is too big. At any scenario where he gets hurt, there's massive second guessing and massive lost opportunity for his career to get going and for the maturation to begin. Yes, he could get hurt on any snap of a regular season, but at least in the regular season, he's playing snaps that are meaningful. Key player that gets a massive injury first. Marty, what kind of question is that? Like, I'd like to share some insights about things I know, not throw a dart. How much improvement does Callahan have to have in terms of wins to keep his job? I do not think he's going to be judged on wins. I mean, if he wins 2 or 3 games, maybe 4, it's going to be hard. But he's going to be judged primarily on Cam Ward's progress. How good, how promising, how effective, how encouraging is Cam Ward's play by the end of the season? If the Titans feel like he is on a good track as the season winds down, I think that Brian Callahan has a good chance of keeping his job. How big is the divide between Brownlee and Baker? If Snead returns, is it automatic that Baker sits? Absolutely. Jarvis Brownlee is a way better player than Daryl Baker. And Daryl Baker was horrible on the first day in Atlanta. I didn't see the defense that much on the second day. But Daryl Baker, to me, was one of the bigger disappointments. And I'm a Baker guy. I mean, I think he's come a long way. But, I mean, he's nowhere. At his best, Daryl Baker is nowhere near the player that Jarvis Brownlee is. He doesn't have the attitude, the moxie, the skills. And another guy's got to go as Amani Oruwariye. Wears number 31. He was just awful. He's the guy that played in Dallas as a cornerback. He's tall and lanky, and you look at him and think that's a guy that looks like he could help them at corner. He's not. Don't make the mistake of thinking that he is. He's not. Oruwariye. You don't spend any time learning to pronounce it. Fatty Matty, this is not something we do. We don't make predictions and declare them as facts. Snead will not play more than 25% of the snaps on defense. I think Snead will not play more than 25% of the snaps on defense. Acceptable. Declaring it as fact, not acceptable. Adam says his argument is if he gets hurt week 3, it's the same as if he were to get hurt tomorrow. It's not. It's not the same. If he got hurt in week 3, first off, he would have played in week 1 and in week 2. And secondly, if he plays in week 3, he's playing in a meaningful contest. If he gets hurt tomorrow, he's playing in a meaningless contest. So there's no reason to risk bad things in meaningless contests as opposed to risking bad things which are at risk all the time in meaningful contests. And Cam Ward needs to grow in meaningful games where everybody's at risk all the time, but everybody's not at risk all the time in preseason games, nor the prevailing wisdom is should they be. Suppose the Titans get off to a slow start. Do they become sellers at the deadline? Pollard? Who wants Pollard? Who's trading for Pollard? Ridley? I don't think you'd trade Ridley. He's the only guy. We just went through a long thing about how he's the one guy who can really help Ward. I think Derek says, I think Ridley's value will be high, especially he's having a breakout season. Yeah, what was the market for Ridley when he's a free agent? Jaguars and the Titans. I don't think anybody else was a serious contender for Calvin Ridley then. I don't know. The guy that you should be listing is Jeffrey Simmons, who's in the second to last year of his contract, doesn't have any guaranteed money after this year, just hired a big new agency that clearly is for the purpose of changing that. Jeff Simmons, to me, is the guy that if the Titans are bad, teams would come knocking about, and the Titans should consider moving if they can get enough. Matt Graves wants me to go through the league, predict which quarterbacks are going to get cut, and then predict which quarterbacks the Titans will sign. I would refer him to the piece I wrote this week or last week. No, it's not too many pieces ago. Backup quarterback reality check. Titans safety net is full of holes, where Blake Bedingfield runs through some guys he thinks can become available who would be good fits for the Titans. Not everything is going to be spoon-fed and provided as mashed carrots. Some requires some reading. What do I think of Asamoah? This is a topic I had here on my list. And I think people are too excited about the waiver wire. Remember Jace Amaro? Last time the Titans had the number 1 pick on the waiver wire, the big acquisition was Jace Amaro, the tight end from the Jets. And you know what Jace Amaro did for the Titans? Absolutely nothing. Brian Asamoah, reasonably high draft pick for the Minnesota Vikings. Does not have a place for Brian Flores there. A friend of mine in Minnesota told me he's fast, but really undersized and doesn't have great instincts. Played some at inside linebacker as a rookie, but Flores had no use for him when he got here in 2023. Decent on special teams, but didn't have a path here beyond that. Excited about that guy? I mean, they got rid of Otis Reese. Something clearly went on there that I cannot get to the bottom of. David Gabenda's gone, right? Anthony Orgy's hurt. They need back end inside linebackers. And here's one. Maybe he has a chance on special teams, but I don't think he's got a chance to be more than that. Please take a moment, if you are not a member of paulkuharsky.com, and come on aboard. $7.50 a month is a steal. All the news and insight that I provide, more's going behind the paywall as we get going here. And you will get analysis from No Flags Film, James Foster, who's excellent. He'll have a piece coming up this week after the second preseason game. Blake Bedingfield, who scouted for the Titans for 19 years, offers a post-game assessment every time the Titans play from a scouting perspective. What did he see as he watched the game from a film study perspective? Mike Herndon will chime in occasionally. Blake will offer quarterly reports on the roster and more. And then everything I write, see, analyze. Everybody in here who's a member will vouch for the value. So please come and take part. Also, for the first 9 members who sign up for a yearly membership, $81, although it's a 10% discount, get a spot in a sleeper fantasy football league with me as the 10th member. So come in, talk your talk, tell me how you're going to beat me at fantasy football, and then get your ass kicked. I challenge you. The flag has been thrown. Let's see what you got. Come one, come all. Robert says, I kind of agree about Ward. Not saying Ward is Peyton, but Peyton was like 2 and whatever his rookie year, but showed promise. I mean, Peyton showed promise in that he was Peyton, and you knew his surrounding roster was not that good, and they wanted him to, get his lumps out of the way and everything. I don't know. We don't know what Cam Ward's pedigree is compared to Peyton Manning. I don't think Cam Ward had a comparable college career to Peyton Manning. And so I wouldn't speak of them in the same breath personally. But we'll see. Look, it's a patient process. Again, maybe there are some great moments from Cam Ward this year. Maybe he's fantastic from the start. We don't know. And the unpredictability of the NFL is the number one reason for its popularity. I say this all the time. The thing about what could potentially unfold, what I feel like as a strong possibility of unfolding, is that this year is like watching an NFL glacier with the Tennessee Titans. Very slow movement and very incremental progress. And incremental progress is not fun. Are you going to be excited when one of the things we're talking about and the progress from week 2 to week 3 is that Femi Oladejo his hand placement as a pass rusher has gotten much better? I mean, those are the kind of stories that come with a team full of developmental prospects. When your second round pick is a guy who's played 10 games at his position, and when they're thinking he's going to be a lot better in his second year than he's going to be in his first. That's not that exciting. It's not that fun. Ed Henry asked about, is there something more to Reese than performance? I think there is, but I don't know what it is. How do I compare A.J. Brown as an overall talent? How do I compare Calvin Ridley overall to A.J. Brown as overall talent? I mean, not in the same ballpark to me. I think Calvin Ridley's a nice receiver. Ideally, he'd be the second best receiver on your team. I think he gets he made too many mental mistakes last year on top of taking so long to get in sync with Levis. I mean, A.J. Brown to me is top 3 receiver in the league. He's got he's fast and incredibly physical. Ridley is very fast, but he's also very very, very thin. I think some defensive backs would relish a chance to hit him. Some defensive backs bounce off of AJ Brown. And AJ Brown's done winning on a level, been a key ingredient on winning teams in a way that Calvin Ridley has not. And that's no offense to Calvin Ridley, who I like personally a great deal. What is the biggest difference currently between Ward and Levis at this point in Ward's development that gives us hope he could be good? Well, it's still super early for Ward. I mean, I can't go back and remember what Levis looked like on August 14th, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but it's super early for Cam Ward. All kinds of stuff hasn't been written about Cam Ward. All sorts of stuff hasn't been wired yet about Cam Ward. He's got a ton of time and space to learn. Yeah, this question about signings, like, Preston Smith's out there, there's a Darius Smith's out there, Matthew Judon's out there. That's, the guys who are out there who are proven veterans are A, old, and B, really expensive, and they want more than they're worth and more than the Titans are going to pay them. Other than that, too many people think there's like a market of players out there that there just isn't. Rosters are at 90 right now. This is the thinnest the free agent pool is. And, Smith and Judon are not signed by 32 teams. So there's a consensus in the league that they're not good enough at the price that they're asking for. Tons of teams need pass rushers, not just the Titans. So, I don't begrudge them not signing it. Yeah, Lee, we talked about the inside linebacker that they claimed. So, I mean, Ward can plug and play, of course, Mark. He's the number one pick in the draft. He's expected to plug and play. Do I see a difference in overall execution due to it being the second year in a scheme? Not really. Jordan Pace loved this week's When in Gout segment. Not called that, but it should be. I agree. Rex Road's ailment is radio gold. And Rex Road, this was on Robbie and Rex Road this morning. I am back on regularly Wednesdays, 8 to 9, sometimes 7:30, but did it this week on Thursday because I was in Atlanta. Joe Rexrode's ailing with gout. I don't mean to be unsympathetic. It's just funny because you don't know many people with gout. And then he was talking about people with brain cancer, and it was kind of rude to people with brain cancer, which I find to be much more serious than gout. So I apologized on his behalf to people suffering with brain cancer who have my sincere sympathy at a higher level, to be honest, than people suffering with gout, which I don't know to be life-threatening. Will Foster break down each week during the season? Foster will break something down each week during the season. He's not going to do a game breakdown because Blake will have done a game breakdown, but he will look at something specific each week for sure. Here is Focus saying membership to paulkuharsky.com is worth it. He still wants to meet me. Love your work. Flying out of Denver sucks. I mean, flying out is flying out. When am I on 102.5 again? As luck would have it, I am on Next Man Up with Jake Lyman tomorrow from 9 to noon. 9 to noon tomorrow. Check it out. What do I make of Rudolph having great success again now that he's back with the Steelers? Great success again. It's the preseason. Preseason success for a number 2 quarterback means 0. Preseason success generally outside of like a rookie quarterback looking like he knows what he's doing means 0. I can't believe how many of you people fall for preseason as something. Fantasy football offer. Sign up for a new year-long membership at paulkuharsky.com, and I will invite you to be in a sleeper league of 10 players composed of 9 new members of paulkuharsky.com and me. I'll even come up with a decent Titans-related prize. Let's see what I need to tell you about here. Of course, VIP Play, which is the fine sponsor of our podcast. It's the premier betting experience where everybody plays like a VIP. You can't get better treatment. And here's another bonus. If we're talking about getting a year-long membership to paulkuharsky.com, you'll get the fantasy league if you're one of the next 9. And I'll give you a code for VIP play that will give you bet insurance for your first bet of up to $1,000. So you sign up for a year at paulkuharsky.com, steal at $81. You get a spot in this fantasy football league where you get bragging rights over me if you can beat me, which you won't. And you download the VIP Play app, and you can make your initial bet as much as you want. I mean, you want to make it a decent amount, but it could be $100. You bet $100 on something you feel really good about with great odds, and you can get a great win there. And if for some reason this bet that you know is going to win doesn't win, you keep your $100, and you can go all the way up to $1,000 with that. It's an incredible offer. Win a $1,000 bet or whatever your number is, or keep that money in your account. VIP Play is a great app, really nice. They offer have way more, better, different offerings than everybody else. You'll really like it, and the interface is nice, comfortable, pleasant to look at. Check out VIP Play. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 and over in Tennessee to bet. VIP Play treats me like royalty. VIP Play will treat you like royalty. I can't encourage you enough to check them out. VIP Play. Back to your questions. The waiver claims, I was talking, if I don't remember how deeply I got into this, but, when you get a guy, you can hit on a guy, Daryl Baker was a waiver claim. Daryl Baker started a good share last year once Snead went down, and he could start a lot of games this year. So a decent level starter. Yeah. But you're going to find one. You're not going to fill your roster with them. And, I just think people count on too much. Now, look, the Titans should churn and churn and churn as much as they can. The bottom 10 guys on this roster are not very good. And you take as many cracks as you can to find somebody, and you hope that things break in your favor. And if you can find 2 or 3 guys, that's fantastic. But the odds of you finding a true impact player are really low. And the Titans know that. So when they sell having the number 1 claim as a feature of having been the worst team in the league, well, look, it's not free agency in March, and it's not a draft pick. It's something. It's not nothing, but it's not that much more than nothing. It really isn't. History shows it. And when people talk about the examples that they have of having found a guy on waivers, it's usually not anything spectacular. Let's take some more. Is Kevin Winston playing any in the preseason? Don't know. He's got some hamstring soreness related to his return from knee surgery. I doubt he's going to play this week. I don't think he'll play this week. And so then we'll see if he plays against Minnesota. So we'll see. I think he's going to be a very good player. Ward connecting with Ridley immediately is an indictment of Levis, not the other way around. I disagree with that. I mean, it's an indictment of Levis for sure, but it's a 2-man relationship. And I think Ridley is putting some of what he learned out of the struggle he had with that and putting it to use, to his credit, with Ward to help make that good. Everything isn't all Levis's fault. Ed asks, besides Ward and Femi, which rookie is most important to the team if they hit? Winston, Helm, or DK/Isle Manor? I would say receiver. I mean, if one of those receivers can be a legitimate top 3 guy who's going to be on the field regularly with the starters, that means they are bumping Jefferson or Lockett out of that 3-pack. And if somebody can do that, I think that's a really good development. Focus. I hope you're joking here. He says, ouch, PK. What I said about Ridley makes the trade of AJ even worse. You still rank J-Rob above Rand? J-Rob's first 3 years were tremendous. J-Rob traded for Tannehill. He got Dennis Kelly for garbage. He traded for goodness gracious, now I'm going to forget his name, and I'm looking right at his face. The running back from Philly who was in Dallas. And J-Rob was really good early on. The fact that his last 3 years were terrible does not erase the fact that his first 3 years were really good. J-Rob is superior general manager in every way to Rand Carthon. Callahan looks dead in the water. How does Brinker explain his position? His position is he's going to let the coach and is hoping for stability. How much of an explanation do you need on that? What do you want him to be saying now? I'm going to fire the coach if things aren't better. That would be a real healthy approach. I mean, be realistic. Marty Clark, I put your question on the screen. Terrible. Is Amy going to be patient enough on a rebuild the way that Chad looks to be doing without starting over again with the new staff? What's her level of win now while rebuilding? Asks John. Look, Chad, Burke, maybe Borgonzi have said that Amy's on board with what they've asked. She's given the reins to these people. Is she going to stick with that? Who knows? Who knows? She hasn't spoken. She hasn't said. We don't know. She makes rash decisions at times. She certainly did with the timing of firing John Robinson. She certainly did with firing Mike Vrabel shortly into his new contract. Rash decisions. Can they convince her not to be rash? I don't know. These eccentric owners, I mean, she's hardly the only one. They do crazy, rash things. What are my expectations for the Deliver Me From Nowhere movie and the casting of Jeremy Allen White as Springsteen? Look, from the little trailer they're in, it looks like it could be really good. I will go see it, hoping it's really good. I will probably rate it better than it deserves out of hopefulness. I hope it's really good. I mean, Bruce is connected to the project in that he was at a lot of the filming and seemed to give it his full endorsement. The book was terrific, so I'm optimistic. Hey, I'm wearing, I usually wear a collared shirt, right? I bitch at Braden Gall when we do a football show when he doesn't wear a collared shirt, but I'm wearing this shirt for a reason. I wanted to tell you about one other thing I've got going on. I will raise the microphone as I stand and show you my Pro Football Reference shirt. I go to Pro Football Reference every day. I've always got a Pro Football Reference tab open on my screen, which currently has 30 tabs open. I was at Belmont today talking to my new boss over there about some of this stuff I need to learn before I get in front of a class. And she almost had a heart attack when she saw how many tabs I had open on my Chrome. I said, well, half of those are Belmont related. So now half of them are Titans football related and half of them are Belmont related. So half of that's your fault. Pro Football Reference is, I mean, it's an unbelievable resource. So you can go do higher level stat research at Pro Football Reference by joining StatHead. And StatHead lets you do all kinds of fancy statistical searches that are tremendous regarding streaks, regarding the last guys to hit this mark or achieve, do this X many times in this span or stuff like that. So if you go to StatHead at Pro Football Reference, you get 20% off the already very reasonable price by using the code PK.com. Needs to be an annual sub for Pro Football Reference or for all sports. But it's a very, very useful resource. I know a lot of you like to dig into the stats. I'm tweeting this out now. So give it a look. And if you're listening later on Apple or iHeart or Spotify, you can find this on my Twitter feed and on my other socials. So check it out. StatHead from Pro Football Reference. Get 20% off the already reasonable price by using the code PK.com. Check it out. So I think if you're not familiar with it, you should definitely check it out. I think you really would enjoy it. Who's the sleeper player that could be a household Titans player by the end of the year that isn't a 2025 draft pick? I quickly go to Bryce Oliver. I mean, I think Bryce Oliver could be a faster NWI. I think that's what they think. I don't know. We're counting on a lot of receivers to emerge for a team that doesn't have receivers emerge. At what point in this season will we know if this team has improved on special teams? I think this question is. O-line is better now. Colt Anderson is gone. At what point in the regular season will we know if this team has improved from last year? Week 5? Going to have to help me with the schedule beyond the first 3. I think first 2 weeks, you might think this team is significantly or just as bad as last year. Maybe the Colts game, you get to see the better side of them. And then, yeah, I mean, I think a 5-week sample is a reasonable number. Is the new kicker legit? Joey Sly has a big leg. What we don't know about is how he does in high pressure situations. Johnny Hecker had a shank fest the other day, and I talked to him afterwards, and he said, no, they weren't working on anything specific. He had a bad day. So I don't know. What's the true feeling in Snead? Cush heals faster. I mean, 2 separate cases with 2 separate timetables. Nobody knows the true details of Snead, who told people at his football camp or somebody's football camp, but during the Titans break between minicamp and camp that he was as healthy as ever. And, all we've seen is him standing around. So but that doesn't mean Cush heals faster. I mean, Cush is on a Achilles return timetable. So, I mean, everybody thinks Snead's thing is suspect and weird and don't understand it. But look, I will say this. If Snead was off PUP and had practiced a couple times, he's only going to practice a couple times. He's not a guy that's going to practice on a regular basis. They said that when they got him. And it wasn't just Rand. Now, I think Rand was the biggest proponent of getting Snead, but Brinker was there with them, and they said the same thing. They said, he's on a knee maintenance program, but we're confident he's going to be productive on Sundays. Well, he wasn't productive on Sundays last year because he only played 5 Sundays and he wasn't good. Is he going to be what they thought he could be this year? Well, they have a chance to salvage the trade if he is. If he isn't, it's an absolute bust. Jared Morris, subscribe for an annual membership. Looks forward to all the insight. I appreciate it. I'll be in touch about the fantasy league. Yeah. Murray is the running back I couldn't think of. Bad by me. Thank you, Kim. J-Rob and Rand destroyed this roster, so it'll take some time to get back into a good position. I'd say 2 or 3 years. Well, they're a year at least into it. Again, what is success for the Titans this year? I'd say it is development of Cameron Ward. Where are we here? We got a few more minutes. I'll take a couple more. That's tough about Burks. You only wish you could have seen more. Why? Like, how much, Tremaine, do you need to see of Burks to know that he's not good? He's not good. He's injury prone and not good. If the Steelers fire Tomlin, end it there. They're not going to fire Tomlin. And Callie has an 8-win season. You go headlong into Tomlin. Don't miss out like Brady and Tannehill. The Steelers aren't firing Tomlin. And the Titans aren't firing Callahan if he has an 8-win season. I know what you're saying, but that's just not how people operate. I did not see Metallica. I am not a Metallica fan. It's too loud for me, and I don't find it musical. What do I think of Zarzer's first signature call? First off, I don't think there's such a thing as a signature call in a preseason game. Sly, lets it fly, bullseye. Oh, I'd have to hear it to give you a judgment on it. It's quite rhymey. How are you supposed to stay interested in the preseason if the coach minimizes everything? I don't think the Titans' goal is to keep you interested in the preseason. The Titans' goal is to get to the regular season healthy. Whoever said the Titans' goal was to keep the fans interested in the preseason? The league doesn't give a shit about the preseason. You shouldn't give a shit about the preseason. No, John, they didn't say Brinker negotiated the trade like it was his idea. He negotiated the trade because he knew Borgonzi. So they were the two guys doing on the phone and doing the stuff. But Brinker didn't say, hey, let's go get Snead. And now he may have been part of saying, hey, let's go get Snead. I mean, they were working together. But Rand was according to them, the guy making the personnel decisions. Negotiating the trade in this instance means the guy, getting the details done after the parameters for a trade were set by the Titans. They said, we're willing to do this much. Now go negotiate it with Borgonzi. Yuppie Mullets, thank you for the compliment. Apart from Cam, draft selections could be considered questionable. I see some objections to Femi. I really don't see anybody otherwise who's a concern. Once you get to the sixth round, give me a break. But I think everything's fine. Over under 4 wins, way too early to predict. I agree with that. And I don't predict wins or record or a lot of stuff. Brinker must be held more accountable for some of the moves made under Rand. He is getting let off the hook. According to who must he be held more accountable? We don't know how involved Brinker was, but I do have some people who think that Rand was allowed to hang himself, kind of intentionally, maybe. So I don't know. I tend to think there's truth in that. Am I familiar with the band War on Drugs? Am I? I haven't found too many new bands, and I'm told that after you're 40, you don't really like much new music. You're wired for the music that you like. War on Drugs is a terrific, terrific band. And Rusty, I think they've got some Springsteen elements to them, and they've got some Dire Straits / Mark Knopfler elements to them. And those are my two absolute favorites. You see Knopfler over there next to Bruce. So I think they're absolutely terrific. I saw them live at Marathon Music Works, which was terrific. Excuse me. Jordan Pace with the last question. Has the broader inclusion of non-traditional media in this market sharpened the iron in the press corps? I don't know. I don't know. Um, but I think the broader inclusion of non-traditional media, um, I don't think you can call non-traditional media anymore. I mean, if you only let in traditional media now, you wouldn't have a lot of media. You'd have half the media that you have. So I think it's all media now. And it's not all about the views. Lee says that. I don't know who in the Titans media market is all about the views. I really don't. I mean, Teron Davenport is not all about the views. I am certainly not all about the views. I'm a niche membership site, and I've made that work as a career for into my 8th year now. Nick Suss works for the most mainstream, old school, traditional mainstream outlet. I mean, they certainly want views very badly at the Tennessean. I don't know that they're very successful at getting the level of views that they want, because a whole generation of people couldn't identify that the Tennessean is, or has been the paper of record in Nashville. A to Z chases clicks to a degree, but Easton Freeze is not a click chaser. He's writing, I think, attempting to write unique stuff that is his view of things and his ideas of things. John Glennon's not out there full time. Who am I missing? I mean, I think conceptually, Jordan, that's an interesting idea. Has the broader inclusion of non-traditional media sharpened the iron? I mean, I think it sharpens the iron the more smart people you have covering the team, and we have smart people covering the team, but not in great quantity. Is it bad that Jim Wyatt is on the payroll? I love Jim for what it's worth, but it seems a protective move by the team. Well, bad for who? It's not bad for the Titans. It's not bad for Jim. All right. I think that's a good wrap. We've gone over an hour. The audience has gone up nicely. I appreciate all of you coming by. Reminder, go subscribe to StatHead. You get 20% off if you use pk.com as your code. You need to sign up at VIP Play and do your betting there. You can get up to $1,000 guaranteed bet if you sign up for a year of Kuharsky.com for $81. And also, if you sign up for a year membership of Kuharsky.com and you're one of the first 9 people to do it from here forward, a couple have already signed up. Free entry in a fantasy league, a sleeper fantasy league, 10-person league with me. And you can brag all you want if you beat me, which you won't. 102.5, the game tomorrow. I'm on Next Man Up with Mr. Lyman. Check us out from 9 to noon. I appreciate you all very much. Don't block the box, and be sure to lock your locks.